Hello and welcome to Unacademy. I welcome you all to this session. A very interesting controversy has erupted over a song, which is a national song also, but is also considered one of the most important cries in the Indian national movement, which is the Vande Mataram. Now, when we talk about Janagana Man and Vande Mataram, both have been accorded equal status, but one is the national anthem, the other one is the national song. Recently, the Prime Minister's remarks about the Vande Mataram has in turn led to a new storm, be it political or be it in popular culture. Now, in this session, we'll try to understand what is the roots of this controversy, what is this composition, who wrote it, and why should we look at this from a certain perspective, which is problematic and is anachronistic at the same point of time. So let's talk about the Vande Mataram controversy. Before that, remember that from 17th November onwards, platinum batches are starting. If you want to get an offline experience online, you have to use this opportunity. From 17th November, Chetan sir will be taking international relations and Astha ma'am society. So you can join us with regards to this. The link is in the description box. Now, let's first talk about what is the context of this session. So on 7th November 2025, the song, the national song Vande Mataram, completed its 150th anniversary. The translation of Vande Mataram into English is Mother, I bow to thee. This was composed by Bankim Chandra Chatterjee and it was published for the first time in Bangadarshan. Bangadarshan was a literary journal published by him on 7th November 1875. So the 1875 birth anniversary of this song becomes 150th anniversary. So this is the, you can say, context. This is a starting point that in 1875 we have the first time that Vande Mataram was published into a certain journal. Later, this song will also be added into one of the most celebrated works of Bankim Da, which is Anandamath, and this will be published in 1882. Later, Rabindranath Tagore will then put it to music and make it into a song. So it was a poem which became a song, and the song was composed by Rabindranath Tagore. The poem was composed by Bankim Chandra Chatterjee. Now we'll try to understand the historical context even more because that gives us insights into what is the reason it was composed and what was its role in the national movement. Now when we talk about the historical context, there's a very interesting, you can say, story behind it. So Bankim Chandra Chatterjee, the one who composed this poem which later became the song, was a very prominent figure in Bengali Renaissance, or what is called as the Bengali resurgence, and the literary field in that regard. And he is known for his multiple compositions, but his literature and his intellectual contributions in 19th century colonial India is invaluable and is unparalleled in that regard. He was a novelist, poet, essayist. He composed the Anandamath, thereafter Durgesh Nandini, even Devi Chudrani, and these compositions till today are considered to be one of the most important insights into colonial society, into colonial, you can say, literature, into the life and you can say the nationalistic fervor of that period. Now, within that, the song or the poem, as it is a song, in 1875 it was first published. Now, how do we know that this was first published in 1875? Because we don't have the direct edition there, and that we get through Sri Aurobindo's daily Vande Mataram. Sri Aurobindo's daily Vande Mataram in 1907, which is the context of the Swadeshi movement, for the first time mentioned that there was a song which I am using, and that was published by Bankim Chandra Chatterjee in 1875. So we have one corroborated resource that it was published in 1875. So 150th anniversary, perfectly fine. Then from the you can say before being published into Anandamath, it was actually published in a serialized manner in Bankim Da's monthly magazine, which is called Bangadarshan, as we talked about. And the song Vande Mataram appeared in the very first installment of this novel in March-April edition of 1881. So first, it will come as a serialized, you can say the Anandamath itself came as a certain serialized novelistic fashion in a journal itself. Later, it will be composed in 1882 into one novel. So it will first come as episodes and then will be compiled together. But we know in the first very edition of the Banga Darshan, we automatically get the Vande Mataram. Thereafter, we also have reference of Madam Bikaji Kama using a flag with Vande Mataram on it in 1907. But we'll talk about the nationalistic concept. So it's a very interesting history that the poem song or the song itself came through first in a journal, then became immortalized in Anandmat, and the context is from a very important literati or a very important personality of 19th century literature of colonial India. Now, Vande Mataram became a war cry. And the real, see, from 1875 till 1882, it was not used that much. However, from 1903 onwards to 1907, this is the period when Vande Mataram became a very, very important cry because of the rising politics of the British in colonial India and in Calcutta itself. And Vande Mataram will be first sung in the 1896 session of the Congress by Rabindranath Tagore. And it is the Banaras session. In that session, Vande Mataram will be also adopted for all occasions. This is 1905. And by 1905, 1906, 1907, so first time sung in 1896, but it was adopted as a song into the Indian National Congress INC in 1905, which is the Banaras session. Thereafter, what is important here is that in the 1904, 5, 6, 7 period, Vande Mataram was the most important song of the Swadeshi movement. It is related to, it is Swadeshi movement which made this song so important for the nationalistic fervor. In India, from that point forward, till CDM, till Quit India, Vande Mataram is going to be a very important song, a war cry, but a certain portion of it from its original composition itself, the first two stanzas were the ones which were very popular, not the next four if you count it as 6 stanzas. So, we'll talk about the composition in just 1 minute, but when we talk about Vande Mataram as a song, even across the world, it was a very important war cry. The nationalistic sentiment was captured by Vande Mataram, be it 1907 Bikaji Kama, be it Madanlal Dhigra's last words at the gallows after killing Curzon Willie, which is Vande Mataram, be it Indian patriots in Paris who will publish a magazine called Vande Mataram from Geneva, or be it Gopal Krishna Gokhale going to Cape Town, South Africa and meeting everybody with the cry of Vande Mataram in 1912. So I think we all know that it is a very important song, but I am giving you enough evidence and enough reference points so that if a UPSC made question comes through, you should know 1896 Congress session, 1905 adopted, thereafter used across the revolutionaries phase 1 abroad and in India itself, and composed in 1875 by Bankim Chandra Chaudhary. I am also giving you valuable information for the examination. Now let's talk about the composition, which is Vande Mataram as a song, and what is the controversy here. See, this is the national song. And it was decided in 1937 CWC session that this is going to be the composition of the Vande Mataram which is going to be used. However, this is not the original composition, the whole composition. The whole composition has actually more parts. It is only these 2 stanzas which are actually recognized as the national song, because the next 3 stanzas are about Lakshmi, Durga and Saraswati. So this song actually has a very interesting background in which when this song is sung within Anandmat or in the serialized form of the journal, it was for three forms of Bharat Mata. One who had been, one who was, and one who was going to be. And the one who was in the first form. And that is where there's an invoke, there's a certain cry that, "Hey Durga, hey Mother, you have to become," you can say, the third version who can be free. That is why the Mother, "I bow to thee," and then the invoke, and that is where the push comes. Now, these three stanzas is where the controversy lies. We are using this as the national song that has been decided in 1937 session. But what did the Prime Minister say? The Prime Minister, whilst talking about the national song on its 150th anniversary, argued that the Congress removed certain important lines from the Vande Mataram composition, which is the starting point of partition. The seeds of partition were sown by the Congress. So the accusation is, by omitting the last four stanzas, therefore, Congress in a way accepted the concept of partition, and therefore it was something as a certain turning point in Indian history. He further went on to argue that it was the voice of India's freedom struggle. I have demonstrated that to you. Unfortunately, in 1937, it was decided that only the two stanzas will be used, and thereafter this was an injustice. Now, before I go into this controversy, let's discuss the episode which he is talking about. The episode which he is talking about is this one. The Congress Working Committee meeting in Calcutta on October 26th to November 1st, 1937. Again, very important for the examination. Now, this was no ordinary CWC. Congress Working Committee, when it used to meet, the AICC when it used to meet, it had at this point of time the following composition. Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru, Sardar Patel, Netaji Subhas Chandra Bose, Rajendra Prasad, Maulana Abdul Kalam Azad, Sarojini Naidu, J.B. Kriplani, Bhulabhai Desai, J. Bajaj, Narendra Dev, and others. And these are one of the towering members and the towering leaders of that time. Rabindranath Tagore was also taken into consideration when this CWC met in 1937. Now, what was decided? This is where, from the collected works of Mahatma Gandhi, volume 66, we get a very interesting, you can say, conversation. So I'll tell you the context of the conversation. The context of the conversation is with regards to Vande Mataram. Should Vande Mataram be used in its entirety? And what is the importance of Vande Mataram? So all of them argue that it is a very important song used in Prabhat Feris, used across the national movement. And therefore, it is very important that the Congress has a certain, you can say, stance on it. Should it be the national song? Should it be the national anthem? Should it be the song of the INC in that regard? Now, thereafter, there is a lot of discussion on the fact that when people invoke Vande Mataram, they don't use the last four stanzas. It is only the first two stanzas which became standard. It was very rare across colonial India, across the national movement, that after the first two stanzas, the next four were used. It was the first two stanzas which were mostly used in that regard. Now, the question was, should the whole song be adopted, or should the only two stanzas should be adopted? Now, there are two considerations here. Firstly, the unfamiliarity with the last four stanzas, and also because it is invoking three goddesses. There's a certain Hinduistic touch to it. Bankim Chandra Chatterjee was not apologetic about it. He was very explicit about it. Anand Mantri is it's basically based on the sannyasi rebellion. So obviously, if a sannyasi is invoking the mother, he will also talk about the avatars of Shakti. Shakti is talked about it. Now, in this CWC meeting, there's a conversation that the first two stanzas are generic. They are related to Bharat Mata or Mata. Mata here being Bharat Mata, the concept of the most important figure at this point of time. However, the next four is more specific to the three goddesses, and therefore the argument was, one, it is unfamiliarity which is the problem. Second, at the same point of time, is the concept that there is a certain Hinduistic angle. Now, please do understand one thing. Whatever you have read in popular culture, if you've done Modern India with me, you would know the INC does not advertise itself, place itself, or tout itself as a Hinduistic organization. Maulana Abdul Kalam Azad was a very important member of this. And against the Muslim League, 1936-37 is a very important moment. Now, Government of India in 1935 had come through. The elections of 36 had happened, and this is a very important moment in Indian history because the first elections properly fought by Muslim League and Congress. And this is where the Muslim League had performed really badly. 3% vote share amongst Muslims itself, lost. Second in every seat, separate electorates also did not work. while the Congress did quite well. Congress had always talked about the word secularistic argument would not stand because it's an anachronistic proposition. But the Congress had always stood at a point that it caters to everyone. It may have had a very strong Hindu bias, but it had always touted itself as an organization which was, in a way, in a certain zone, which is a middle path. It never wanted to project itself as a Hinduistic organization. Taking into that consideration, there is a certain line or consultation which is talked about in CWC. What is said is that the committee recognizes the validity of the objections raised by Muslim friends to certain parts of the song. While the committee has taken note of such objections insofar as it is intrinsic value, the committee wishes to point out that the modern evolution of the use of the song as part of the national life is of infinitely greater importance than setting in a historical novel. Therefore, national movement had taken shape. Taking all things into consideration, therefore, the committee recommends that wherever the Vande Mataram is sung as national gathering, only the first two stanzas should be sung with perfect freedom to the organizer to sing any other song of unobjectionable character in addition to the place of Vande Mataram song. Now, this is a very important point. The argument which the CWC is making is, we note that the Muslim friends, because it's a Hinduistic song, we note that there is a point there. But further, we want to say that the original composition of this song is immaterial right now because it has become a song of the national movement. And in that context, it is very, very important to us. And in that context, it is something which we need to protect. And therefore, it had used the first two stanzas because it was more familiar, it was more, you can say, generic, not secular, generic, and therefore aligns with the image of the Congress. Now, there was a certain conversation which happened between Nehru and Subhas Chandra Bose, which is quoted by the BJP spokesman recently, that this was done to appease the Muslims. No, it is not done to appease the Muslims. It is done to show the character of the INC as a party which can cater to everyone. And at this point of time, elections around, it was very important for the Congress to project its intrinsic value and intrinsic ideology. Now, when it came to the advice of, they said that why we should also take the advice of Rabindranath Tagore, who composed this song, with regards to using the first two stanzas. And in that, he also said that yes, the first two stanzas can be used for the beauty of the motherland. And at the same point of time, there's a lot of hue and cry from the All India Muslim League. That does not matter because that is outside the purview of the Congress. But Nehru, Gandhi, both made sure that the first two stanzas was adopted by the CWC as an important song for, or as an anthem for the INC in that regard. When Dr. Rajendra Prasad, when it came to its position vis-a-vis Janaganaman, on 24th January 1950, he argued, and I quote, "The composition consisting of the word and music known as Janaganaman is the national anthem of India, subject to such alterations in the word as the government may authorize on occasions arise, and the song Vande Mataram, which has played a historic part in the struggle of Indian freedom struggle, shall be honored equally with Janaganaman and shall have equal status with it. And I hope this will satisfy the members." And this will end with an applause. Therefore, national song, national anthem. Now, what is being quoted as the communalistic moment here is this conversation where Jawaharlal Nehru writes to Subhas Chandra Bose, when Subhas Chandra Bose was insisting that it should be all six stanzas, not the first two. He said it will irritate the Muslims and it will be a historical blunder. This is the conversation which happened on 1st September 1937. That this will irritate. But this is a candid conversation. Do understand this point. This conversation was not for the public eye. We can read it today, but it was not for the public eye. So the Jawaharlal Nehru can be more frank. Now let's talk about the anachronistic proposition and the assessment. How should we look at this controversy? Now, the people who are associated with this controversy are forgetting 3-4 very important things. First is, what is the nature of the INC? The nature of the INC is a party which is an all India party. the party of Gandhi, or the party of Nehru, the party of Bose and Patel. It has to cater to everyone. It is not Hindu Mahasabha. It is not the Muslim League. It does not cater to sectarian politics. Yes, this whole episode happens in the peak of communalistic stride, which had started with the partition of Bengal with separate electorates. But 1937 is the period where the Congress also had an opportunity. If you have read this episode, you would know that the Congress had an opportunity to, in a way, appease Jinnah by going into an alliance in the United Provinces sector, where he wanted to go into an alliance. It is a failure of the INC to not subsume the Muslim League within itself, and this will change the nature of communalism forever. Do understand this point? Communalism before 1936-37 and communism after 36-37 is very different. This is called the moderate phase of communalism. This is called the militant phase of communism, and the reason why it is called militant is because after this point, Jinnah will realize that he will never gain power within United India, so he will go for his two-state solution, that I need another nation for it. At the same point of time, at this point of time, there is an accommodative stance. So, this episode of omitting the 4 stanzas of Vande Mataram is very well aligned with the image of the INC, which is that it wanted to stand by a centralist stand. It wanted to appease all parts of, rather than appeasement, it caters to. So by saying that this moment in turn led to the partition of India, the seeds of partition are sown, this is a very myopic and very, very simplistic understanding of an episode, which is just part of a larger saga. Can I say that these 4 omissions lead to a certain moment in which now communalism had been accepted by the INC? INC in principle had already accepted separate electorates when they had gone into Lucknow Pact. By 1936-37 and by 40, there was a clear acceptance that there was no other solution than Pakistan. INC did its blunders, there is no doubt, but it is not the same INC as you think it is. INC did multiple blunders, from acceptance of separate electorates indirectly to giving Jinnah too much power, from not subsuming Jinnah within itself, from an opportunity to dilute the agenda of the Muslim League. They did multiple mistakes. But this is not a mistake. This is part of the larger politics of the INC. Why do I say it is an anachronistic proposition? Because it is what is called as Kal Brahm. Anachronism means when you look for something modern in the past, which is your modern consciousness looks for something in the past. Now, modern consciousness is that the INC in a way breeded communalism. We are not the ones who breed communalism, this and that. We are the ones who try to, this is the time of bringing everything together. We have to fight like Durga, Shakti, all of that is fine. But these are very nationalistic, these are very different types of notions of nationalism and patriotism vis-a-vis these very towering leaders who want to get India independence. Your notion of nationalism and their notion of nationalism is very different. They did not have independence, they wanted independence. And the way India would get independence was to bring everybody together. Communalism as we know it today is an engineered concept of the British, which in turn was used to divide and rule. This is a very well known concept, but we don't want to accept it. We are still in a way, still caught up in the same legacy of communalism. But do understand one thing, this is not something as a game changer. So this controversy is just a distractory politics. Do understand this point, that did they drop 4? Yes. Is it a very well known fact? Yes. Was it the way in which the Congress could adopt a very important song and also make sure that it does not in a way destroy the sentiment of others? Yes. Was it characteristic? Was this a characteristic of the INC? Yes. So therefore, overall, this is in line with the INC, but this is not a moment of acceptance of communalism. Please do understand this point. This is not the moment which in turn led to partition. Partition had become inevitable by 1940. It had become inevitable after 1936 itself. This was because of the politics of the INC and Muslim League. The INC was not infallible. It also did mistakes. But this is just an unnecessary understanding which is being pushed, that, for example, you are saying that because of this, we believe that you are a communistic organization. Coming from a certain part of politics, it makes no sense whatsoever. So this is pure political agenda. And in the end, if you actually look at the historical context, if you have a very good understanding of modern India, if you've studied history, you would know that this is just a moment which aligns with it. This is where you can blame anyone. But the idea is that was the need of the hour also. Please do understand this point, is the need of the hour. So therefore, let's contextualize this controversy and also use it to enhance our understanding of history. And for you as a UPSC aspirant, now there are multiple facts which have become relevant, and I hope that this session has in a way enlightened you about it. As an enlightened citizen, as a student of history, as my student, as a historian, this is purely anachronistic. You're looking for something which does not exist or is a wrong type of characterization. You want to be on the right or the left or on whatever side of this story, it is your call. I am the historian. I am telling you the story. I am telling you the episode. I don't pass judgments. We should not pass judgments to the past. You don't know what they were going through, and they were filling up very big shoes, which is very difficult for a leader even till today. And therefore, whatever was done in the line of understanding to get independence, and it was part and parcel the negotiations, the compromises, the mistakes which were made to get independence. But independence was imperative that all of them were aligned, because they're all leaders, they're not politicians. So on this note, I'll end this session. I hope that this short session has given you enough understanding. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.